Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'd like to talk about the power of vulnerability, inspired by Brené Brown. For a long time, I thought vulnerability was a problem I had to fix. Growing up in chaos meant I'd learned early that feelings were dangerous, that softness meant weakness, and that being seen was a risk I couldn't afford. Like many adult children of trauma, I became what was safe, useful, quiet, high functioning. On the outside, I was strong. On the inside, I was exhausted. Allow me to backtrack a little. Dr. Brené Brown is a research professor at the University of Houston, a 5-time New York Times best-selling author, and perhaps most famously, the woman behind one of the most watched TED Talks in the world, The Power of Vulnerability. With over 60 million views, her TED Talk broke open a global conversation about shame, courage, and the healing power of being seen. Brown's research into vulnerability and shame began with a breakdown, or as she calls it, a spiritual awakening. A social worker by training and a researcher by practice, she set out to answer a simple question: what makes people feel worthy of love and belonging? The answer: vulnerability. Reading Brené Brown's Daring Greatly was a turning point in my recovery. She defines vulnerability as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. In other words, the very things I avoided most of my life. I had spent years building a life around control, managing my image, my emotions, and even my recovery. In her book, Daring Greatly, page 34, vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. As a trauma survivor, that sentence felt like a challenge and a homecoming. It also meant showing up as a therapist and a healer while still being a human in recovery. It meant choosing softness over sarcasm, faith over fear, presence over perfection. The lie that kept me stuck. It also meant showing up as a therapist and a healer while still being a human in recovery. It meant choosing softness over sarcasm, faith over fear, presence over perfection. The lie that kept me stuck. Shame needs 3 things to grow out of control in our lives: secrecy, silence, and judgment. A quote from Daring Greatly, page 66. That was my life. For years I believed I had to be strong to be safe. But strength without vulnerability is just armour, and armour keeps love out, not just pain. For a while, in recovery, it felt like I'd healed, but I still felt hollow. Because of vulnerability, I no longer over-explain my emotions. I no longer shrink myself to be digestible. I no longer chase being easy to love. I show up now, messy, soft, honest. And in that truth I found what Brené calls wholehearted living. A quote from Daring Greatly, page 10. Wholeheartedness is about engaging in our lives from a place of worthiness. It means cultivating the courage, compassion, and connection to wake up in the morning and think, no matter what gets done and how much gets left undone, I am enough. If you, like me, have ever felt like hiding is your safest bet, if you've been taught that silence is strength, if you've been surviving for so long that you've forgotten how to just be, then I offer this. Vulnerability gave me back my life, and it can give you back yours too. You don't have to be fearless, you just have to be real. I've learned recovery isn't about looking put together. It's about letting yourself come undone and still believing you are worthy of love.